They have a pretty interesting matchup, Bagan from Super Godzilla versus Destoroyah from Godzilla vs. Destoroyah. I'll be splitting this into multiple categories of who I think would win, what categories, and who I think would overall win the fight. Starting off, the best way to scale these two, or at least the easiest way, is to scale them directly to the Godzillas they fought. So Bagan is comparable to Super Godzilla, and Destoroyah is comparable to Burning Godzilla. These two Godzillas have some pretty interesting scaling. Super Godzilla, even in his base form, is likely a little bit stronger than the Godzilla we saw in Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla. From what I've seen, Super Godzilla likely had a ×2 to up to ×10 multiplier on it. For this, we're going to highball it, but I do personally believe it's on the lower end of the multiplier. Maybe a ×3 at most, but for this, I'm giving Bagan a highball. So with that highballed power, Space Godzilla could be anywhere from multi-galaxy to universal with higher scaling, which is possibly even higher with his infinite power scale that some people like to give him. So Bagan could potentially have 10 times universal power with his absolute max power, if we're assuming he can match Super Godzilla. The Burning Godzilla, on the other hand, was pretty much confirmed 500 times more powerful than the Godzilla we saw at the end of Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla, so he's likely a lot more powerful than Super Godzilla. And he even times this by several infinities during his fight with Destoroyah, and Destoroyah was briefly keeping up with him. So Destoroyah is likely the more powerful of the two, just judging by that. But raw power is not all that matters here. We also have to talk about their abilities. Bagan has quite a few tricks up his sleeve. He can fire a powerful plasma beam from his mouth, he can fire a similarly powerful beam from his horn, he can enhance himself with electricity, he can fire attacks from his tail, he can just slice you out of nowhere with energy, he can make it rain what they call diamond rain in the game. It's basically just plasma that's sharp and stabs and blows up everywhere, so it's essentially just plasma meteors. On top of that, he can also fire powerful vortex from his horn, as well as fire just light, so basically lasers. Plus, he's physically strong enough to go toe-to-toe with Super Godzilla, who might have actually been physically stronger than Burning Godzilla. On top of that, he can also make energy wings in order to fly. He's likely the least agilic out of any flying kaiju in the entire Godzilla series, but then again, Destoroyah isn't exactly known for agility. With all that, it's fairly obvious he has a lot more power than the previous opponent of Destoroyah on this channel, Space Godzilla. However, he lacks the hacks that the Space Godzilla had at his disposal, meaning he's going to have to fight a lot more up front than Space Godzilla would have had to. Moving on to what Destoroyah is capable of, he has quite a bit of abilities, including regeneration, micro-oxygen beams, chest beam, laser katana, micro-oxygen projection, the ability to split himself into several micro forms, flight, the ability to absorb DNA, basically the ability to electrocute people with his own type of electrical micro-oxygen or just lightning. It's never really explained what it is, as well as absurd physical strength of being able to fly Godzilla around like he was a ragdoll and lift Godzilla Jr. up with one arm relatively easily. In terms of power, he should scale directly to Burning Godzilla and potentially even higher than base Burning Godzilla, as he was able to fight Godzilla after he was spamming infinite heat rays right at him repeatedly. So Destoroyah is pretty busted in terms of abilities. Next is durability, which is pretty straightforward. One can survive Super Godzilla's ultimate attack with at least one time, possibly several times. However, that attack at the absolute highest highball is around 10 times as powerful as the Red Spiral Ray. So pretty strong, but not even comparable to the Infinite Heat Ray, which Destoroyah took like 5 of and was pretty much completely fine. There's also speed to worry about, but in the air I say Destoroyah is definitely faster, but on the ground Bagan actually seems a little bit faster than Destoroyah, which is pretty surprising since he's quite a bit larger. We also have to talk about their IQ and battle IQ. In terms of raw intelligence, Destoroyah isn't an idiot, but neither is Bagan. He's actually pretty comparable to Space Godzilla in intelligence at points, so Bagan probably takes the just IQ point. As for battle IQ, I'm pretty sure Destoroyah seems to be more of a strategist than Bagan most of the time, even if he's kind of not the smartest with how he does his strategies. But I'd say Destoroyah might honestly win the battle IQ point. There's also reaction speed, which is pretty much impossible to tie down, as both can react to what can be scaled to be infinite speed attacks, so they're going to react pretty similar speeds. There's also who would attack first. Personally, I think they're just going to rush at each other the second they see each other, so both. In terms of brutality, it's pretty clear Destoroyah is a more brutal fighter overall. He just really likes hurting people more than he needs to in a fight. He seems to honestly enjoy causing as much pain as possible. Bagan's kind of a dick, but he's not a literal demon like Destoroyah. And then, of course, we also have to talk about who would actually win a fight here. Well, it's pretty clear if you've been listening that it's not really that close. Bagan is larger, so in a close-up fight he could start pushing Destoroyah back, but Destoroyah is going to be dominating him for most of the fight just through raw power and brutality. One laser katana hit could honestly one-shot Bagan. It would chop him in half, and I don't even think he'd be able to regenerate from that quick enough before Destoroyah just obliterates him with micro-oxygen. So I do see a lot of people saying Bagan wins this, when in reality, if you look at the scaling, Bagan would be like if he had his own movie, he would be in between Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla and Godzilla vs. Destoroyah. He's stronger in Space Godzilla, but weaker in Destoroyah. And honestly, him versus Space Godzilla is a much closer battle, one I'll actually cover later. But that's my thoughts on this matchup. Destoroyah wins relatively easily after he gets through some of Bagan's more trickier attacks. Tell me if you disagree in the comments. Oh, and I can't help but notice a good portion of you don't seem to be subscribed. So, click the subscribe button.